Hey, Editor Chad here. Wanted to give you just a introduction to what you're about to watch and let you know why some of this interview that you're about to watch with Val Gleason got edited just a little bit. So here's the deal. It's the part of our 5 questions, 5 answers series, and Val very kindly came to our offices to do this interview. The interview lasted about 35 minutes. And our desire is to give these to you unedited. However, when she and I sat down to do this, it was roughly the same time that someone suffered a health crisis and ended up driving into Walmart. And that led to Newton Fire EMS and the Newton Police Department pretty much sending everybody they had to Walmart, and the sirens through downtown were kind of nuts. And so as a result of those sirens, we edited this interview just a little bit. And well, without further ado, Val Gleason in our 5 Answers series. Welcome to our 5 questions and 5 answers series. And thank you, Val, for so much for being a part of this. This week I'm interviewing Val Gleason with Newton Medical Center / NMC Health. I've been around too long. I make mistakes like that all the time, right? I chose to interview Val because she would be, in my opinion, she's the end all and be all for leaders in health, local health. She'd be the top dog. So Val, tell me just a little bit about yourself, or the folks at home, a little bit about yourself and the role that your organization is playing in our community.
Thank you, Chad, for that nice introduction. I do take that to heart. You'll edit this as need be, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But thank you, Chad, for that great introduction. So kind of you. I'm Val Gleason, and I am the president and CEO of NMC Health. And I've been at the hospital here in Newton since 2004. My story is I thought I would come up here, stay for a couple years, and move on to the next opportunity, but I fell in love with it. I love the hospital, and I never want to leave. And so, lo, these many years later, here we are. So my job is to do the bidding of the very strong hospital leadership board of directors that we have. So they set direction, they set vision, and then my job is to enact that in the community and to look after the care needs of what has now grown into a primary service area of over 100,000 people.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of our reach, and I'm very proud of the trust that the hospital has earned to take care of our local communities and the surrounding areas as well.
You know, you mentioned surrounding areas. I just wrote a story. Literally got finished with it an hour before you walked in here. That the birthing center had children born from 21 different counties within the last year. And within the last couple of years, 9 different states as well. So the reach is getting bigger all the time. I hinted in my email to you that I was going to give you an opportunity to brag about a project. I think it's probably one of the most impactful things your organization has done or did or set up in 2023. And that would be the expansion of your ER that's coming. Would you agree with the assessment that that's one of the most impactful things that you guys have set up in the last year or two?
It's going to prove to be very important to the community that we serve. Unfortunately, behavioral health needs have escalated over the last few years. The culture around our entire nation has been a culture that has resulted today in what we're seeing. We formerly had a healthcare system where institutionalization of people with behavioral health illness was more of a norm than it is today. And so as a society, when we decided across the United States to deinstitutionalize behavioral health, we decided to move it back into local communities. Unfortunately, the funding dollars didn't follow.
Right.
And so we've got a lot of behavioral health, what I'll call deserts or underserved areas, and it is prevalent across our country. So we're having to now respond to meet the needs of those in our communities that don't have access, don't have adequate access, or the care has become fragmented among agencies locally, and we don't yet know quite how to manage that. The fundings, I could spend 3 hours talking to you about behavioral health funding, and so every agency, not just the hospital, but every agency locally and across the country is trying to figure out how we're going to balance the funding needs with the needs of the people who are sick, and what will be the best way to give them care when they need it. What we have learned over the last several years, talk to any ER physician or any ER nurse anywhere, and the local hospitals have become the place of last resort when no one knows what to do with a person who is in a behavioral health crisis. And so whether that is the school system, the long-term care facilities, doctors' offices, our local psychiatric facilities, local law enforcement, whoever it is, we find that the hospital now, the local hospital, is the place of last resort where we can figure out how to decompress situations, medically stabilize people who may have ingested too many drugs, and figure out what is the safest care plan for an individual who's facing a behavioral health crisis in the moment. So addressing that need has become paramount because it poses safety issues not only to the patient, but also to the staff that are trying to render care. And in a smaller hospital like NMC Health, with a 12-bed emergency department, you know, here we have some sirens.
Yeah, it's normal.
But trying to balance the need of what a person in crisis is expressing during their crisis, sometimes it's a bit violent, and trying to protect the other patients or the innocent bystanders that are around in the facility, that's a tough balancing act for the staff. And oftentimes that means we have to have people wait in the waiting room who are desirous of care in order to destabilize situations inside the ER so that we don't subject the innocent to that level of trauma. It's hard for the patient to experience those crises, but it's very hard for innocent bystanders to watch it happen. So what we are going to do is build 3 modern behavioral health rooms. Those rooms will be multi-purpose. A person who walks in during a time of high patient census, or what we call that surge in the ER, a person could walk in and be treated for a broken arm in what appears to be a normal emergency room within the department. But when we have someone who is in crisis with behavioral health, we can quickly transform that room by the means of what we'll call it a garage door that comes down over anything that could pose a weaponry risk to the patient or to the staff, or a ligature risk. So those rooms can be easily used for anyone who comes into the ER or anyone with a crisis behavioral health need. In order to accommodate those needs, we're going to build into the existing ambulance garage, so those 3 beds will go there, along with a safe nurses station and some security enhancements for the facility. And then we are going to build a new ambulance garage right next door to the existing ambulance garage that will still allow a pull-through of 2 ambulances at a time. So, and in our new ambulance garage, although it will be, it will not be exotic by any means, it will be utilitarian, but it still is a luxury for the hospital and for our EMS departments and law enforcement, because they can pull into an enclosed ambulance garage and close the garage doors. And believe me, that is a luxury for EMS departments and a luxury for the patients that they're bringing to us. Why? Because the patients can be unloaded in complete privacy.
Been there, done that.
Yep, out of the elements, so convenient, so nice, and it really is a luxury that a lot of hospitals can't afford to build in their own communities. Oftentimes there are canopies or pavilions, and here we have a completely enclosed environment, and I'm proud that we can do that.
Cool. All right, so we said we had 5 questions. Here comes the first one of the scripted 5, right? And the first question is the most important. What is the most pressing challenge facing our community at the local level right now?
Chad, if you don't mind, because I'm a compulsive note writer,
That's fine.
and our audience might understand that, I wrote some things down so that I could gather my thoughts pretty well for this. I think among the very top challenges facing our community is diversifying the economy. I think that this is a challenge a lot of smaller towns and smaller cities face.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you consider that among the largest pillars in this community, the school system and the hospital, that's not enough of a large pillar to sustain a community in perpetuity. So at the hospital, we have about 800 employees. We work 640 full-time equivalents about every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So that's among the hospital and our local clinics and the clinics that we've built in Heston, Valley Center, Park City, North Wichita, and our specialty clinics here in Newton. So 640 FTEs. That's a lot. That's big. The school system even bigger than us. But that's not the sector of the economy that keeps an economy robust. The service sector supports other sectors. And so I think that there's some idea, is capitalism bad? No, capitalism is not bad. We live in a capitalistic society, and we need industry and jobs in Newton. So that would be my personal first choice, diversify our economy. We need to build widgets here.
And I think we're going to start.
Yes,
right?
I think so too. It's very exciting. So that's my second point, is the infusion of local, well-paying jobs with employers that can afford to pay reasonable benefits for their employees. That strengthens local economy. And what do I mean by that? Well, we know that the work of, as the work of children is play, the work of adults is to go to work.
Yeah.
To have a job, to earn a living, to support one's family, among other things. We give back to society, we volunteer, we do those things. But the principal duty of an adult is to go to work and be gainfully employed. And so we need those kind of jobs in Newton, where a lot more people can go to work locally, or maybe regionally, but use us there's nothing wrong with being a bedroom community, as long as people get out of bed and go to work every day. I'm a big proponent of going to work. And I think that helps also support our philanthropic hearts that are so prevalent here in Newton and Harvey County. When I first came up here to work at the hospital, I was very impressed and taken by the helpfulness and the actual infrastructure of philanthropy that's built in and around Harvey County and Newton. there are a lot of people who have opened organizations, such as Ember Hope, such as our homeless shelters. They do so much good for so many, but we need paying jobs too to counterbalance,
Yeah.
right? We need an economic means of support to support our philanthropy.
Did you want to do it monthly or
Third,
yearly, or how, you just
I would
wanna-
talk about a strong, engaged citizenry.
Okay, for print, are you inside the
One
county?
thing that I have noticed since I moved here is that
Okay, and
our
are
local
you senior
agencies
military by chance?
and our public-private
So
partnerships
1 month
work very
for,
well together.
Online
And we do
print
have a
is,
spirit of volunteerism in our community that I think is stronger than it is in many communities
right,
today.
well, it's free with.
And
the
whatever
print,
our
so you don't
community
have to-
can do to build upon that is very, very helpful.
It's
After
extension.
COVID, the hospital was able to re-engage its volunteers. And let me tell you that
Well, like I said, it's
during
free
COVID,
with your
the
print, so
hospital
even if
had
you
to
don't
excuse the
use it,
volunteers
it's the
from
same-
coming to
it's the
work.
same price.
we had a volunteer cadre of about 80
Yeah,
or
well,
90
it's
people at that
information
time.
from you first.
And during COVID, because we didn't know what to do about this novel disease, we didn't know who we could let in the hospital, who would be endangered by the germs that were in the hospital. We asked our volunteers not to come in, and I've told them, it was like part of our heart and soul was not present in the hospital anymore. The volunteers give us so much. So after the pandemic subsided, we hired a volunteer director in Suze MacGyver, and she's been able to reinvigorate our volunteers in less than 18 months, back up to almost 70 volunteers.
Wow.
And it's so wonderful to see them back in the hospital and contributing to us and our patients in ways that the staff just can't. So, somebody in the waiting rooms to comfort somebody whose family member is in surgery, that goes a long way, because people don't have surgery every day. It's a disruptive time in their lives, and it's scary. So we love our volunteers, and I think whatever we can do in our community to encourage people to engage and volunteer back into the community is a wonderful thing for us. It's not to say that it's a weakness, but it's always something that we can continue to build on. It makes us strong. I'd also say that a pressing challenge is that ever-present, the omnipresent challenge of having strong public schools. We graduate National Merit Scholars from Newton High School. So it tells me, as a citizen and a taxpayer and somebody that has an interest in youth, that we're doing a lot of things right.
Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
And so I'd love to say,
And that's in
I
Lansing?
encourage our community to do whatever it can
Yeah,
to make the strong stronger.
Okay, it's 832A.
I love to talk about the bell curve, you know. And what I'd like to see is us move our kids to this end of the bell curve in whatever way we can.
Yeah,
So
and they,
if that's through strong academics that prepare them to be college bound, so perhaps for a professional life, or strengthening our technical education programs, so that people can enter the workforce at age 18 and earn a living for themselves. Begin saving money, because an 18-year-old that saves money out of every paycheck starting at age 18 will be rich by the time they're 65, won't they?
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to go to college to get a professional career in order to build wealth in your life. If you can live within your budget, live within your means your entire life, imagine the wealth that an 18-year-old could eventually amass. And it could be very significant. So, so somebody that'll commit to that. So I'd like to see the community really engaged in a strong, continuing to strengthen our public schools and the kids that graduate. You know, I'd love to see an international baccalaureate program in the Newton schools. to kind of complement what is happening with the CTE education. So those kind of ideas, I think, can come to fruition if you have an engaged citizenry that supports the schools rather than tearing them down. We need strong public schools.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Yes, we do. All right, so considering the evolving media landscape, what role do you see, and they used the word newspapers when they wrote this script, I used the word local news organizations, playing in the community 5 years from now?
I've thought a lot about this, and part of my answer is that it doesn't matter whether we're having this discussion in 2024 or whether we were having the discussion in 1776. The role of local media, no matter if that's electronic or print or voice, the role of media is so important. And I took a poll at work. I just went around and asked a few people, what do you think about this question? Because I think they're going to ask me about the role of media and its importance now and 5 years from now. And let me just read to you
Sure.
a few comments because I thought they were so wonderful. We exist and live locally. This is where we conduct all the business of our lives, right here. And so we should have local news. And we should have local news that reflects that local life because that's what we submerge ourselves in. And that was not to say that it needed to be done at the exclusion of state or national or international news, but this is where we submerge ourselves. And so local news is important, especially when the local news ties us to the state, national, and international news sources, right?
Right.
Papers are the voice of the community, and there are connections with each other. That's the strength. Papers allow honorable discourse and the expression of varying and oppositional viewpoints. This is how democracy operates, and it strengthens societies and allows us to make informed decisions. 1776, 2024. The story's still the same because the nature of human beings never changes. Papers inform and provide context. And I've heard in my family, we lament about the loss of the morning paper and the evening paper and how thick they were. And how in those times the reporters actually not only reported the news, but had time to go to the background and had time to do the research and present context. And so still today, I know our local media partners attempt to provide relevant context. They don't just, for example, go to the city commission meeting and say, at 8:05 they did this, at 8:10 they did that, at 8:15 they did something different, right? But it's the reason behind. What was the discussion? What led them to make that decision? And we thought that was really important, and so that's on the list. Our folks say they love the local news because it highlights local importance, and so specifically again, city county commission meetings, the school board meetings, those local things that we're immersing our lives in, those decisions matter to us day to day to day. Candidates for office forums and their opinions and why they're running and what their platforms are. Legal notices, obituaries. Several people said, I look to the local media for those publications. I need to know if my neighbors are no longer with us. Human interest stories. A couple people remarked about that. I like hearing about my neighbor who did extraordinary things in their everyday lives. And maybe it wasn't, going out into the middle of a lake and pulling somebody out from underneath the ice. But it's a small thing that somebody did. But though the small things that occur in communities are the things that make us us. It's who we are. And if those stories never get out publicly, through the media, then how do we know our neighbors? How do we know that? And so folks said they were inspired by that. Others said, I want to know my community and my neighbors and my elected officials. And here was something I hadn't considered, but I know it to be true personally. Helps me use my time wisely. When I have something that's, printed up like this and it's orderly, and I know approximately which page I'm going to find my important local news on, and then where's my paper going to lead me to the state and, national and international news. It helps me use my time wisely. And I don't have to go to a computer, say, and hunt and scratch for keywords or look for something that in a void I don't even know it happened, so I don't even know to put that keyword in. Several of us, even though we didn't really want to say it, we do say it. I like going into a bookstore personally and taking a big whiff the minute I walk in the door. I love to smell the books in the bookstore. And in the same way, I enjoy holding my newspaper and opening the pages and smelling the newsprint. I just like the experience.
And washing your hands afterwards,
and washing
right?
my hands afterwards, I don't care. I like spreading out the newspaper, and if I want to sit in the chair and hold it, I can do that. Or if I want to go out to the kitchen table and spread it all over the table or on the kitchen cupboard and stand there at night because I've sat too long all day long, I can put it on the kitchen cupboard and read it on the kitchen cupboard all spread out. And it kind of, reading a paper kind of is an experience. And I think lastly, the newspaper reflects the spirit of the community. So while the media is also obligated to tell about our dark side, and unfortunately, that has to be reported because that's part of our community's fabric. When you report that somebody's teenage child saved a dog that was caught in a barbed wire fence, that's important too. Or the youth that went to the forensics competition, or the wrestlers, or the tennis players, or the Harvey County drug-free youth and what they're doing, and the stand youth. I love reading those things in the paper. It helps balance my experience of reading about the dark side. I love seeing this. And so did our employees.
So in other words, the role that we're playing, you think we need to continue to play,
I do.
right?
I think it's essential. And the people that I took a poll from, and it was just a straw poll around my department, when they used words like, this is how this is a reflection of community. This is the voice of democracy. This is the voice of civil discourse. This is, we can open a paper and we can read, we don't have to read foul language. That was important. And should it continue? By all means it should continue, because it's what helps us form the heart and soul of what makes a decent community, a decent society.
So you mentioned it already, but one of the 5 questions is what role we should be playing in promoting civic participation.
You should.
Right?
Undeniably, that should be the role of local news.
Is just to continue to encourage people to be involved.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What community events or activities do you believe we should be covering in order to better connect with the residents of this community?
I think my answer would be as much as you can, wherever you can find it. All ages, all spectrums, all neighborhoods, the schools, the achievements of our young people, go down to the senior center and read about the achievements of our elders, the wisdom of our elders. Try to get everything from here to here in the paper. I don't think any story, particularly stories about the lives and the hearts and the souls of our neighbors, no story is too small.
I agree. It's why I wish more people would call me. You know, you just, this is, I mean, I'm just gonna give my opinion. My greatest frustration is that people make the decision on their own as to whether it's important or not, or whether I'll be interested.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my job to decide,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's my
Right.
job to decide if that story is too small or too big.
Right.
And that's what it is. And I wish more people would just call and say, I mean, your folks in your PR department did that this week. They sent me an email and said, you know, I don't know if you think this is important or not, but, well, guess what? It's going to be front page on Saturday.
Wonderful.
I mean, they allowed that decision to be made by me, and they took the risk.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more people need to do that.
Well, I agree, but I also agree with you that a person may not understand that this little thing, what they consider, oh, this is just a thing that I do. This is just a normal part of my life. No one else would care. No one would be interested. Or am I too modest to say, toot my own horn?
Yeah.
So we'll always have a need for sniffing reporters.
Yeah. Well, last question of the 5. Considering the current economic landscape, how can this newspaper support local business and contribute to the economic growth of our community?
Just by telling the stories. I can't tell you how important it is when I say to our employees, please look at this news source, this page. Halfway down, you're going to see a story about so-and-so that works with us. And how important that is to the heart and soul of my own organization. So it really doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a school teacher or whether you work in a local restaurant or whether you work at the quick shop down the street, right? Important things happen to their friends and neighbors, and to see accomplishments, to see a notice of even the smallest things that somebody did makes a meaningful impact in day-to-day life, because many of us are confronted in day-to-day life with very tough things. During this interview, we heard an ambulance and several law enforcement officers go by. Something is happening even during this interview. And while that is their day-to-day work, in doing that work, they're heroic. And that needs to be continually brought to the attention of local folks, because that's what makes community, and those achievements are what make community strong.
Well, Val, thanks for being a part of this. Means a lot. Before we leave, what question can we ask the community in our upcoming surveys that we're going to be doing? We're going to be doing some community surveys as part of this, that your organization would like to know the answers to.
Very good question, Chad. I hadn't contemplated that.
Yes, unfortunately, this is a question that I didn't put in the emails.
It's okay.
So.
Say that again. What? Yeah.
What question can we ask the community that your organization would like to know the answer to?
I think that we would be interested as a local nonprofit organization whose job it is to improve the health care of the community. I would like to know whether the local citizens believe there is something we're not doing to meet their health care needs. And if so, what is that? And we would do our best to address it.
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
Yeah.
But we exist to meet the needs of health care in our community. And so if we are not, I would like to know, because we'd make every effort to either provide that or explain to the community why that's not possible.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot. And that's it for this week's interview. The next interview on our list is with Mayor Rod Cry. So looking forward to that one. And I've still got 2 more that I'm trying to get nailed down, but we will get there. Please help us spread this conversation. Share this video. Let us know what you think about this conversation on our Facebook page once it's posted. Thanks.
Thank you, Chad. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.